Managing an outsourced gene therapy program doesn't have to mean navigating fragmented data with limited visibility. In this session, Jonathan Rush, head of supply chain, PMO, and OpEx at Andelin Biosciences, will show us how a more transparent, integrated approach can transform the CDMO relationship into a streamlined, collaborative partnership. He'll share Andelin's OneTeam model, a framework that unifies project governance with real-time technical and manufacturing data to improve communication, strengthen control, and deliver on-demand visibility across the development lifecycle, reducing risk, enhancing alignment, and enabling more confident decision-making. I'm your host, James Crosspayne with Cell and Gene. I'd like to thank you, the audience, for attending today's event. This is live, so we do encourage your participation. Take a moment to get comfortable with the tools on your screen. To your right, you'll see Jonathan's contact information, and just below me, a question box. Please share your thoughts with us during the presentation. We will answer as many questions as possible, and any we miss, I'll pass along for follow-up after the event. This question box can connect you with me if you run into any trouble, but please try refreshing your browser first, as it will fix most common issues. Finally, today's event will be available on demand. You'll receive an email with a shareable link shortly after we conclude. Now, without further ado, let's begin today's presentation. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. I'm excited today to talk through the Andelin OneTeam approach. So as we jump into it, we really want to look at how we're bringing radical transparency to gene therapy manufacturing, how we're able to present information real time so that project management isn't a hurdle, it's more of an asset that we can use to advance our therapies. So the agenda for today, we're going to look at kind of the black box problem for developers, the challenges that are faced, areas where program management tends to misstep, and how OneTeam really changes that model to bring more real-time impact and real-time collaboration. So jumping in, the reality of gene therapy outsourcing. The reality is gene therapy outsourcing and manufacturing, it is complex. It's living organisms, it's cutting edge, and it is a complex process. And when people are outsourcing gene therapies, I'm sure there's a lot of things or common themes that are heard. Status is buried in emails. To find out where things are at, you're going through multiple email threads to find what's the current status. There's multiple spreadsheets being tracked so that you can track your status, and other spreadsheets are being tracked to track other status. There's a spreadsheet here, there's a spreadsheet there. There's monthly static reports or weekly static reports. So you're going to get a report that basically says, okay, here's where we're going, here's everything we did, but it's static. It's not real time, it's not live. And then milestone tracking. Milestones can be everywhere from every step you take or so high that it's really not tracking the progress of your project. But with that, it's manual. It's manual, like what are the inputs, what are impacting those milestones? And that limits real-time visibility. You're waiting for results, you're hoping things are progressing as seen, and beyond that, whenever you get a higher level update, it's digging back through where have we been, what has happened, and once again, you're getting a static view of the project and where it's at. So that really leads into the black box problem. And this is where visibility breaks down. Everything that you're wanting to see, everything you're wanting to know about your productions, it's kind of behind the curtain. It's hard to see what is happening day to day. And of course, you want to know. You want to know current status, what's happening. And the typical experience is there's delayed answers. You ask a question and you're waiting for that response. Sometimes there's conflicting information. So you're asking a question and maybe it wasn't taken the right way, or since the time you've asked it, there's a lag between and it's just out of date. So that lag between when things happen and when things are reported, if it's reported weekly, you've got a lag, or monthly. And really what that culminates together to bring is a lack of confidence in timelines. How do you know if you're really taking the right steps every day, every hour to meet those timelines? And the sad part is this can lead to friction between teams. You know what you know, they know what they know, and you're really trying to figure out how do we work together through this? And once again, on top of all this, it's gene therapy manufacturing. It's exciting, it's cutting edge. But that complexity just amplifies all of this. So to move through a hypothetical example, there's a simple question. A client asks, what's the status of our production? So that client's going to ask the program manager that. That program manager is probably going to turn around and email the ops department head and, copy in one or two other department heads just to make sure all the bases are covered. Well, that ops department head, he's then going to email his direct management. And when he emails his direct management, now he's going to include 3 others in this conversation. And oh, yeah, remember those 2 department heads that were copied in to help? They want to jump in and help too. So when they jump in to help, now you have another email strain where they're either going to the direct reports or they're checking with their person. And then, along the whole way, someone slightly modifies the question. Someone provides a little bit more detail or asks another question. And now you have different email chains, different communication paths, and now you have different questions and different responses coming back. All of that circulating at one time. As that makes it back to the program manager, now they're going to have to ask more questions for clarification. And you can see how this cycle can be unending. These are things that are probably going on behind that black box. And you can see where information can be tied up and really a challenge to get from one place to the other. So I have a Lean Six Sigma background. So from a lean perspective, I wanted to step back and look at information in terms of the 7 forms of waste. So from a manufacturing standpoint in lean, you've got transportation waste of moving things. You have overproducing, so you're producing more than you need to. You have overprocessing, so you're reprocessing, overprocessing, excess inventory. These are all things manufacturing you don't want to see. Defects, waiting, and then excess motion. So let's take a look at this from the information side. So transportation, think about it. Every email that you send, think of how far that information's being transported or traveling. It's going from one recipient to the other. And then even physically, if you're on site and in meetings, you're traveling from one meeting to the next. Overproducing. So every time that email is received and that question's being reposed or that response is being relayed, it's overproducing. That information is getting relayed over and over. And then when you're sitting in a meeting and a question gets raised, how many times does that lead to multiple responses to the same question? From an overprocessing standpoint, every email that's sent, it's got to be someone's reading it, someone's digesting it, and someone's responding. And that's all emails to all recipients. And then in a meeting setting, when you're physically in a meeting discussing the information or the status, how many times does that lead to unnecessary discussions, rabbit trails, or just kind of wandering off topic? Inventory. How cluttered is your inbox? How many emails are you holding on to? As this project progresses, you want to keep track of everything, every correspondence. And then on top of that, for meetings, you're holding on to meeting minutes. Action items and meeting minutes get transcribed from one meeting to the next, and so forth. So think of all that extra inventory that's being held from an information standpoint. Defects. As I stated earlier, any kind of lag time, it's outdated information, or maybe it's incorrect information coming through, or it's misinterpreted. So if people have to go through different people or following up, sometimes questions are misinterpreted. Sometimes updates are misinterpreted. So that leads to defects. Waiting. This is probably the worst part. You ask a question and then you wait for a response. And then as you're waiting, who knows what's changing in the background? And then if you're physically in a meeting, phrases like, well, let me check, or I'll need to follow up. Once again, that just leaves wasted time and effort to get information. So that's 6 out of 7 forms of waste. And I'll admit, motion, it's a stretch, but hey, to try to fill out the model, if you spend 10 hours a week emailing, that is 120,000 keystrokes. And if you are sitting in meeting after meeting after meeting to get information, you're probably seeing some extra motion from head nods. So how do we get by, or what's causing all of this waste? It really leads to the fragment of information and lacking a single source of truth. So to take a look at some of the structural constraints and some of the operational consequences, data typically lives in silos within different departments, from process development to analytical development to scaling up to productions to QC testing. All that data lives in different silos. And what happens is, to get to that information, you have delayed visibility. So often we're making decisions on information that's been aging. The manual maintenance. So with all these trackers, with all this information, it's manual tracking. We have to keep up with everything that's going on manually, different forms. And how are you seeing this information? And what that leads to is reactive reporting. If you can't see things real time, everything's a few steps behind. And where this all comes together is, to be able to see everything that's going on, it ends up, you need a superhuman project manager that's going to be able to access all this information, go through, get that information, and relay that back to the client. And it's just not scalable to be able to know what's going on. I know personally, I want to know everything that's going on in every process. So how is that even possible? This is mission impossible to get that kind of information. So what we looked at in Angelin is, what if we did this differently? What if we could have the technical and the program data living together? What if, as part of managing the process of completing tasks, that was all built into the governance of the project? What if reporting was automatic? What if we're not going back and trying to pull information, generate reports? What if that can be seen real time? And with that real time information, what if all the information was aligned? So you can walk through, it makes sense, it's simplified. And the best part is, what if there's one source of truth? You don't have to go to person A or person B. What if you can just see this directly? This was our mission, and this is our mission for your program as part of OneTeam. We want you to be able to see everything that's going on real time with real information. So what is the OneTeam approach? It's an integrated approach. And how that starts is with a standardized project management government, where we treat the projects in the same fashion. They go through the same cadence, they go through the same updates. We have a standardized way of looking at project management. We take that technical and we take the manufacturing data and we integrate it in so that it can all be pulled together real time. A shared digital interface is the next piece that allows our clients and our sponsors to access this information directly. So once again, there's always a project manager there to support, to help to manage the project, but also there's a direct linkage to the information, which leads to real-time program visibility. It's not having to wait on an update. You can see your program status real time. And it really takes that black box experience of what's going on in the background to a live and a collaborative, transparent working environment. So before we jump into OneTeam and what it looks like, I want to make sure that we align on some of the common language, because we did that internally. We want to make sure that we're always speaking the same language. So the project outcome is really driven by delivering milestones by the target dates. So a milestone, that's a key deliverable with a fixed due date. And what we did is we went through and we standardized this across all projects. So that way we're looking at information in the same way. Now, obviously with gene therapies and outsourcing gene therapies, it isn't one size fits all. There is customization that goes into every aspect of this. So milestones, as we're starting with a standardized template, they can be customized. We can customize this to fit specifically to a client's request. So getting into the dates, this is where I want to make sure we have clarity. We have target dates. Every milestone will have a target date. Target dates are fixed. They don't move. They're not negotiable. We're not moving them around. In all reality, for a target date, you either hit the target date or you miss the target date. So those are locked. They're static. Getting into plan dates. Plan dates is where things move, where we adjust the plan, because the plan dates are what combines all the tasks together and able to hit a target date or hit a milestone. And this is where the PMs really excel. The project managers are able to adjust plan dates. They're able to condense timelines. They're able to react and figure out the best path forward. So plan dates are flexible by design because they're all used to support a target date that does not move. And the last part is the actual date. So we do record the actual start date. We record the actual finish date. And then that's, once again, compared against the plan, and we can see where items are late or not started on time. And that enables real-time visibility to be able to react faster with all of the information. So for a project manager, they're watching the target dates, they're adjusting the plan dates to make sure we hit the target dates. And in the end, this really leads to milestones being delivered on time. So now we'll get into what does this actually look like in the real world. For this, we've created a generic project plan. We've simplified it. It's 4 milestones, 15 tasks. We've entitled it Mission Impossible. And the 2 reasons for Mission Impossible is, one, with gene therapies, it's exciting. When I talk about to people about what we do, they look and they're like, wow, that seems impossible. But the most exciting part is it's making the impossible possible. So that's part of the Mission Impossible piece. The other part is, if you've seen the movies, Ethan Hunt is always down to the clock's ticking. There's 10 seconds left. And with 1 second left, he clips the wire and saves the day. I would propose that if Ethan Hunt had all of the information that we're going to show readily at hand, he'd probably be clipping that wire with 45 seconds left, because it takes the delays out, it takes the surprises out. There's real-time transparency into what's being done. So this is the project intake form. When we initiate a project internally, this is the base information that goes in. It's the project type, the project manager, any kind of description, start dates. This is where the project starts. Once this project is submitted, the project is provisioned within our system, and it goes into a customizable project plan. Now, this project plan, as you can see, has over 1,100 lines in it, and we've really went through from start to finish and applied a standard process to all the aspects that we're going to be working through. As you can see, there's a flag for milestones, so we have milestones pre-established, and this is 100% customizable. Not every person coming in is going to have every facet. Some may have more, some may have less. So this is a starting point, and it keeps us standardized. It keeps information flowing, and it's a starting point that goes through that's catered specifically to the client, and they have full visibility to how this project's going to progress. So let's get into an example project plan. This was built last week on 4/8. So once again, you're going to see some dates that look behind, but walking through the project plan so that you can see what this looks like. At the top, we have the comments, we have the duration, we have the actual dates. So this is where the actual dates, the actual start date and the actual end date are going to be recorded. And then we have the plan date. Once again, plan dates can change, but we're doing this in order to hit the target milestones. You can see the target dates. These are filled out for each milestone. And then you can also see the status. Shows whether something's complete, something's in progress, or something's not started yet. The next column, you'll see we have departments assigned. So this is how departments can go in and see all of the work across all of the projects and how it's allocated. And then we have assigned to. Now, obviously, it's blank for this example, but it does get assigned to an actual person within that department who's going to be handling that task. And then the percent complete can also be updated to show how far along we are. So for this example, there's 4 milestones, there's 15 tasks. The first one was material sourcing. So we'll see as you go through, there's a red line, and that was identifying the materials that were needed. There was a comment added, and it showed that for one material, identifying it, there was a potential delay, and there was a delay in identifying it. But we were able to react. In this example, we're able to catch up, and we're able to meet that milestone. Moving down through the production process, we're moving into the AAV production process. So once again, this is very high level. We're talking 15 lines compared to the 1,100. But very high level. You can see where tasks start, how they finished. So the upstream process in this example has already been completed. The purification process has been completed. And then today we're going to start vial fill. So we're going to start filling vials today. Below that, you can see from product disposition. Once again, high level, this is just an example. This is where you can see batch records from the previous steps that have already been completed have now started through the disposition process. We can work on things in parallel. And just for an example, you can see that the very first batch record that was started isn't completed by 4/8, and you can see that the planned date has been exceeded. This is where you start to see real-time visibility. It's highlighted red. We can see that this was not completed on time, and it allows us to focus in on that activity. You can also see for the batch record reviews that are coming up, what has been started. You can see how much time is left. And then you can see for tasks that will be starting. Jumping down to the last part, you can see the QC testing or the release testing. This is flagged as a milestone, and it has a target date. In this example, we've identified an issue where we're saying, okay, we've identified a test that's going to be delayed. So that plan date has been updated to reflect when we plan on being able to complete it. That impacts the plan date for the milestone. And if that plan date for the milestone exceeds the target, it's highlighted yellow. And this is a key piece because you want milestones to jump off the page if the plan does not meet the required timeline. So this is where the guts of the project live. This is the detailed status and just some key takeaways for what the project plan looks like. It has real-time data. So the actual start dates and end dates are being updated by the individuals doing the task. So this is as close to real time as you can get. We also have defined ownerships. So by department, by the people, you have specific people who are handling each task. And then from a status, you can see that anything that's completed late is highlighted red, just to make sure that everything is flowing through and we can hit the milestones. You can see that anything that's not completed on time according to the plan is highlighted red. So that example of that batch record that isn't done yet is highlighted red. And in fact, if it's not started on time, it also highlights as red. And the last part is any kind of milestones are at risk. Those are highlighted in yellow. So it has great visual management. It has all the information that's needed to ensure that the project is progressing. And our clients do have access to the project plans. They can go in and see this directly. The next part is, so you saw that some things happened late and that QC milestone, the date in the plan is not hitting the milestone. Behind the project plan or associated with the project plan, we also have a RAID log. And the RAID log stands for any kind of risks, any kind of action, any issues, and any decisions. And this is where all of this is identified, documented, and it's transparent, and it's interactive. So remember that material that was late, we can go into the RAID log in this example, and it's going to show that that material had a longer lead time than anticipated. So that was a risk. It's a risk to the project. So with that, the team worked and came up with a decision. We can get this material from supplier B, their lead time works. So the action is documented, source this material from supplier B. So you can see those are completed, they're grayed out. And once again, this is where you see the commentary. This is the story behind what happened. Now for that lab issue, you can see there was a date, a risk was identified. So in this example, it's made up. We were saying, okay, there's a piece of equipment that's out for calibration that we're gonna need. It's a risk. It's highlighted, it's exposed, it's transparent. And then the action is, okay, we're going to work with the vendor. We're going to expedite the calibration. We're going to get that back in time. Now, just for added awareness, we've logged in an issue that states that right now, this milestone is trending 5 days late. You can see a very key aspect of this. On the left side, there's a flag for escalation. So that has now been escalated. It's internal, it's real time. As soon as that issue is identified, it is being escalated through the system and through the processes. So some key takeaways from the RAID log. It's real-time notifications are available as soon as these are assigned to an owner. This documents the activities and the decisions made. Everybody always says, CYA. I talked earlier about all the meeting minutes you're holding on to or all the emails. That's not needed because all of the chronological activities, any kinds of risks, actions, issues, decisions are all captured in the RAID log. And the best part about this is it really allows us to align, work through these in the open, and work through any kind of risk or issues collaboratively to get to the best option and the best path forward. As you've seen with meeting minutes, when you're tracking action items, those tend to lag, they tend to carry over. And so these items remained on the RAID log, they remain open, and they remain tracked until it's completed. In that real-time escalation, the best part about that is anything internally that's flagged with real-time escalation that goes to our leadership team. In our leadership team weekly meetings, we review all escalated items. And not only in the weekly meetings, that dashboard is available anytime upon request so that leaders in the organizations also have all escalated items real-time presented to them. And it's a finger click away. So you've seen the project plan, upwards of 1,100 lines, very detailed. The RAID log also has a lot of information to it. So now we've kind of created, well, there's a new piece. How do we go through all of this information? And that's the best part of this. And to me, this is the most exciting. We bring this all together in the OneTeam dashboard. So the project dashboard brings all of this information into one location. So some highlights of the dashboard. You can see from a high-level project status. I know I've said quite a few times, we have 15 tasks. You can see that 5 are completed on time, 8 are in process and on track. You can see that 1 was completed late, and 1 was overdue. You can see that 61% of the project's completed. You see the start, you see the end date. There's a link directly to the project plan, and this information you can click directly into to get to more detailed information. The high-level milestone tracking, you can see that the material sourcing was completed and that the plan was on time. The in-process production and the disposition, it's in process and it's on track and it's tracking in time. And once again, that QC testing, there's an issue identified, and we want these to be yellow. We want these to jump off the page. So we've identified it as right now that milestone is trending late, and we have everything identified in the RAID log, which we'll get to in a minute. But this is where all that information then gets rolled up and distilled up to very digestible pieces. The next piece on the dashboard is what's currently in flight. So on the top left corner, you're going to see all the tasks that are currently in process. So going back to that example, we're filling the vial. We are starting the reviews for the batch records. The top right shows any overdue task. So once again, just for an example, just so it's highlighted red and you can see how the tool works, we have that batch record that wasn't completed on time. That's part of the dashboard so that we can see here's any late or past due tasks. The next part is more forward-looking. In the bottom left-hand corner, we look at upcoming activities. So in that example, we're filling vials today. Next week, or on the 9th, we're starting lab testing. This shows, looking ahead, what's the upcoming activities that we need to pay attention to. And the last part, all of this has been real-time status. We never want to lose sight of what's the accomplishments, what are the things we have completed, because that does bring positive momentum to the project. So you can see the production steps that were recently completed. These 4 boxes give a real-time status as things are completed. If this were a real project and we were working through right now and somebody goes in and completes the batch record review, in real time, that comes off the list and it would move down to a completed task. This takes out any of the delays, any of the waiting. Anyone who wants to see project status can log into this directly. The last part of the dashboard goes into the RAID log. So now this brings in, remember those 3 items that we identified as far as a risk with calibrated equipment, the action to get it back, and the issue escalated. Those are tracked real time in the RAID log. You can see them detailed on the right side. And in the middle, I had to put some kind of dates in so that you can see that it shows how long they're aging. So 2 of these are less than a week and 1 of them is greater than a week. So this is a way that we can keep any open issues, any open decisions in the forefront. And once again, this isn't going on behind the scenes. All of this is being shared directly with the client and the sponsors as well. It gives that real-time transparency And it's not chasing down information, trying to get to this information and working through all the hurdles to get there. So really, what this does is it takes that black box problem. So going back to the beginning, when you want to work with outsourcing gene therapies, those delayed answers, conflicting information, that lag, you know things are going on, you're hoping things are going on, but how do you see that? That reduced confidence in timelines, that friction between teams. Really, what we've done is we've solved that problem by making it transparent. We want our clients, we want to work with people, we want to be collaborative so that they can see everything real time. So this reduces the reporting risk. We're able to go in and see the information. Our clients are able to go in and see the information. It eliminates the manual consolidation. We're not going in and trying to build things for updates. Everything is real time and available. It enables faster decision making. As RAID log items come through, escalations are done real time. It provides status updates so you can see. So we're bringing all the information together and making faster and more educated decisions based off of real data. This also enables us to hit our milestones. We're able to see a milestone. We're not leading up to the date hoping we're going to hit it. We know whether we're going to hit it because we can see the plan dates, we can see the project health, and we know with confidence that we're moving forward to hit our milestones. And this really does bring in alignment across the teams. As we talked about the departments and the assigned individuals, they're able to pull that information as well. So there's alignment between teams of what's coming up, what's being done next, and making sure that everybody's aligned with the status of the project as it's moving through. So OneTeam, it really allows all of our departments, all of the silos, we're all working with one tool set and we're all working together in an efficient manner. And the transparency to this brings our clients right into that fold to be able to work collaboratively side by side with us. So going back to that original example, and I think this is the best part that shows the side by side. Remember that example, what's the status of our project or our production? You know, there's over 8 people involved. You've got information going, everyone's waiting. Think of all the hours, all the touches, conflicting answers. There's data logs or data lags and so forth, different tracking, and decisions are being delayed by the inboxes piling up. We've really flipped that to the other on its head with OneTeam to provide that transparency. So there's an instant login. You can see real-time status. There's a single source of truth. And this is one of the best parts. You don't have to go fishing for information. We're able to see that kind of information real time. And then the last part, 0 emails required to verify progress. So once again, the client can log in, project managers can log in, department heads can log in. We can all see this information real time. So with that, I would like to kind of wrap up and just say we're very excited to be exposing this OneTeam concept because it really does provide that transparency, that real-time visibility, and that collaboration that helps us to progress gene therapies forward. It helps us to get more treatments to more clients. And it's very exciting to be embarking on this. So with that, I would like to say thank you for allowing me to present this, and we're open to Q&A.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for the excellent presentation. Before the Q&A begins, I'd like to remind our audience you can connect directly with Jonathan. His information is located on the side of your screen. We see a lot of great questions coming in. Thank you so much for that. Please keep submitting those via the Q&A box below me. We're going to address as many as we can. And any we miss, I'll pass along to Jonathan and Andelin Biosciences to follow up offline. Our first question, how much can I customize this for my own project?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking. The aspect that you saw earlier with the standardization, that is really just the template to work through. It keeps us aligned. It keeps the information aligned. It is 100% customizable. If there's a new process, once again, gene therapies and cell gene therapy, it's cutting edge. If there's a new process, if there's a new development, it can be added in very easily into the project plan and then even into project dashboards. The best part about this is with having this information available, we are able to go out and pull this information and bring it together in a usable view. We have a client right now that they wanted to track documents more distinctly. So in their dashboard, there is a document tracker. We're tracking the status of the documents and they can see that moving through. So it is 100% customizable. And we recognize that on the front end, because as I stated, with gene therapies, it's not one size fits all. So we've taken a standardized process, but made it 100% customizable to meet whatever needs are presented.
Excellent. Thank you. Our next question, what does the implementation process involve?
So designing OneTeam, that's a great question. Thank you so much. So designing OneTeam, it was very exciting to look at this on how are we going to create this, and I'll be transparent here. We were like kids in a candy store. Maybe kids designing what would be in the candy store of, well, what if we do this and what if we do that? And there was a lot of time where we started to get so excited about what we're going to do. We had to step back and add structure to that process. So we came up with 4 swim lanes. We looked at the process. So how is this information going to flow from our clients into Andelin? How is the information going to flow from the teams to a common location? What does that process look like? What do those meetings look like? How does that information, what does the process look like for that? The next step was the structure and the tools. So after we had the process, we really wanted to build the tools and have a lane for that as well to make sure that that's catered and fits with this model. The next swim lane was data. We wanted to look at what data is needed, how are we going to collect it, and how are we going to get it. And ultimately, the last swim lane was the dashboards. What kind of information do we want to see? How are we going to present it? The project dashboard, which I shared here, has been phenomenal in bringing visibility to the status. It's interesting with that project dashboard for team updates. It basically is the agenda. What's coming due, what's overdue, what's the upcoming task, what's recently completed. So with those 4 swim lanes of the process, the structures and the tools, the data, and the dashboards, that's how we were able to bring all this together for the OneTeam concept and the OneTeam process.
Thank you, Jonathan. Our next question, what happens if the plan date and the target date start to drift? Does the system automatically alert us, or do we have to hunt for the changes?
So the system will automatically update. That's one key piece when we were defining the dates. The target dates do not change. So the target dates do not drift. By definition, if the plan dates start to drift and exceed the target, it's going to highlight it yellow. We want to see that milestones are being impacted by the plan. From that, plan dates are made to change. So that's where the program managers really are working the plan. They're collapsing timelines if needed. So there really isn't a drift aspect of it because the target dates are static and the plan dates are made to change in order to achieve the target dates.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, everybody, that's going to be all the time that we have left for today. Don't worry if we didn't get to your question. I'm going to pass them along to our presenters to follow up offline. I'd like to thank Jonathan and Andelin Biosciences for providing their expertise today, and you, the audience. We appreciate you being with us and hope to see you again soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day.